Hey, yo, Sukuna. Thank you to our final patrons, Red Wolf 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, and Sean. Thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Wolf 4765, and a very big thank you to our $25 patron, Alex Ice Rose. Before we jump into this breakdown / review of chapter 219 of Jujutsu Kaisen, please remember to leave your own list in the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit that little notification bell to miss out on any videos that come on the channel. Also I do a page down below. You support as low as $1 down month. Let's do some videos, early content, and more. It will now become a Maryland channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, let's hop into chapter 219. What's up, guys? All the pencil here. Here we are to chapter 219 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as Bath. The quadrilogy. Like, legitimately just Bath 4. And like, come on! I'm sorry. Gege, you couldn't call it like the end... I don't know. What? The end of family? The despair of darkness? Ooh, the despair of darkness would be kind of heat. That may just be the title of this video. But regardless, the chapter has some good stuff in it, some good juicy stuff. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. So we open up and we do get to see that we are back in the time of the Heian era. And specifically at the time of the Harvest Festival, where they pray to deities in order to get a bountiful harvest. This is something that I know is across multiple cultures back in the day, or even some to this day, where people pray to certain deities in order to make sure that they have a good harvest, because, you know, especially in a world of like cursed spirits and monsters and beasts, you probably do want to pray to a certain thing or two to make sure that you do not have all your crops destroyed by any random assortment of cursed spirits, especially considering this is the Heian era, the most violent and peak era of Jujutsu. Presumably, if a random sorcerer was just feeling a little bit silly and a little bit goofy that day, you would starve. Like, wholeheartedly, you would just starve. So it makes 100% sense that they would hold festivals like this in order to sort of ward off bad omens. And apparently, this festival in particular is special because it isn't just your ordinary festival. They invited a certain someone, a monster, and not just invited a monster, they are praying to the monster. That monster being Sukuna. Now, very, very interesting, right? Because the main thing that we know about the Heian era and Sukuna in that same sentence is, one, Sukuna is generally from that era, and two, all the sorcerers jumped this man. Like, legit, everyone jumped Brody until he supposedly got defeated, and then his power was sealed away in his 20 beefy fingers, which we know people can consume in order to obtain his power. But with that being the case, I wonder why he isn't being jumped here, or if he was jumped here after the events of this chapter. I don't know. It just seems like he's wandering around and even being prayed to. Like, I guess it makes sense. Once again, this is a living, breathing, walking, talking calamity. So obviously getting on the calamity's good side would most likely be better than not being on the calamity's good side. But the fact that Sukuna's kind of just going around being a dude for the most part is interesting. I mean, it makes sense. He has servants, like, or at least servant, or ume. And he does still have a mostly humanoid visage, sure. The extra set of arms, the second face, the second set of eyes, and the tongue tummy is not usually what you would see on a regular dude. But I guess Sukuna, even when he was in his full peak prime curse state, he wasn't running around just eating people. Like, he's willing to show up and be prayed to, which is very interesting. I wonder what he feels like. Like, hypothetically, if you were suddenly so powerful that people were legit praying to you in order to make sure that they didn't draw your ire, like, I don't know, that existence would be so strange. Like, notably just because I'm so used to regular human interaction where you just interact with other people. But Sukuna went from a dude to a real strong dude to a literal deity. Like, that's gotta be a strange thing to experience. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'd be down with that. But then again, Sukuna's down with eating people. So, like, I don't know. Whatever. To each their own, I suppose. And we do get to see that the main reason that Sukuna is being, you know, prayed to, worshipped as a deity, apparently he's the one who had sliced the elite Fujiwara clan subjugation units into pieces. And due to that, they need to clearly show that there is no ill will and maintain an amicable and peaceful relationship in order for the Fujiwara to continue to exist. And that implies a couple things. It explains a couple things. One, it explains why Uro was literally just dookie in herself at the mere thought, the mere presence of Sukuna within the same colony as her. Like, remember, Uro didn't even be like Ryu. Ryu pulled up a little bit. Well, not a little bit. He just straight up pulled up. Ryu didn't move out the way. Ryu didn't run. He straight up said, yeah, I'm going to pull up on him. But Earl was shaking, baking, worried, sweating. Like, legitimately, she was in a whole new world of, like, terror and agony and misery. Like, straight up, she felt Sukuna's presence and was shaking and baking. And now we know. I thought Earl may have gotten, like, executed or lost her life to, like, a Fujiwara member. I know she was specifically biased against Yuta because she thought, oh, well, I was put up and betrayed. I was used as a scapegoat by a Fujiwara clan member, so all Fujiwara are evil and mean and stupid. But either A, this implies that Sukuna, because we know she was the leader of the Celestial Squad, and not the 5 Void Generals, I don't think it was, she was the captain of the Celestial Squad, and she may have just been sliced to death by Sukuna, which may explain her fear, or all of her subordinates were sliced to pieces in front of her, and maybe that was the incident that got her used as a scapegoat. Either way, it does 100% explain the fear she has of Sukuna, and the reason why she told Yuta, you're just not like him. You just can't be like him. Because if she had the reaction to Yuta that she did, willing to pull up on him, fight him head to head, but just the presence of an incomplete Sukuna had her shaking and baking like this makes sense why. If he's coming out here just casually solo and slicing people up to bits, yeah, that's a good reason to be unbelievably terrified of him. And we do get to see that Sukuna is just a guy who actually does still care somewhat about relationships and somewhat about the status of things, to the point where he doesn't just annihilate everybody here. Supposedly, if he was able to take out the entire subjugation squad of the Fujiwara, there's no reason he couldn't have just pulled up on the Fujiwara themselves and been like, yeah, I'm your king now. Prepare me some people. And then bada bing, bada boom, he annihilates them all. Like, he didn't have to not do that, but he didn't. So it implies to me that Sukuna still is somewhat human underneath all of that, which is implied. He still does have a human, playful personality. He's not fully just a walking calamity, but he does fit that motif very, very well. And we see that the Fujiwara believe that this is pretty barbaric, that they don't want to do this, but they just know they kind of have to. And the same thing happened with another person. Though they aren't being worshipped and or praised as a deity, no, just due to their abilities and their power, they were promoted to a rather high status. As noted, come to think of it, there was that bumpkin from Aizu, who was appointed to this very capital, even after she showed herself to be just as bad a barbarian. My goodness, what is becoming of our peaceful capital? And this is a very interesting part of world building for the Heian era. Specifically, it appears that similar to the modern day, the more powerful you are, the more automatic status you'll get, but it wasn't always that way. Like, something shifted within the Jujutsu world at that time, where the centralization of power was literally power, and not necessarily just like bloodlines or lineages. Like, presumably the people who are talking at the beginning of this chapter aren't any like powerful individual creatures. No, they're just people. And now, due to the shifting tide towards literal raw physical power, even quote-unquote just barbarian humans like Yorozu, barbarian sorcerers, due to their raw power, are strong enough to get power. And we see one of these, if not the barbarian human, is Yorozu-sama. And she is not YouTube friendly. She's not YouTube friendly, so I shall be doing my best to edit around this Yorozu. And we do get to see that she is currently munching on something, like she wants to munch on Sukuna, and we see that the servant of hers is like, Yorozu-sama, please, and she asks, enough of your barking, what is it? Today is the harvest festival. I don't mind if the clothes are informal, but for the love of the Lord, please wear something. If you don't, I'll be disciplined by the palace ladies again. You get that every single day. Thought you'd be used to it. I mean, like, I don't know. I like clothes. I'm not exactly sure. Even if I was in a high position of power, that would ever just like be walking around naked. Like, especially considering she's not laying on anything comfortable. She's laying on what looks like a straw mat. Like, you ain't itching? I mean, I suppose maybe she got her reinforcement up, so that's like she would never be itching. But like, legitimately, I don't know. Like, is that really comfortable? What are y'all's opinions on clothes? Would y'all just prefer to just not have clothes on? I don't know. I like clothes. I think they're neat. I think they're usually comfortable. Like, a good pair of jogging pants, a long sleeve t-shirt, and bada bing bada, long sleeve t-shirt. That is an oxymoron. A long sleeve shirt, and I'm chilling. Maybe without socks. And then again, Gotta keep the socks on. So, like, legitimately, I don't know. I like clothes. But Yorozu clearly does not. And apparently this is a repeated problem, which is crazy to think about. So she got promoted to the level of the Fujiwara. She is now part of this clan. She proved herself on the battlefront. And now she just walks around naked. Like, I don't know. Like, and then the question is, what changed over 1,000 years? What made her suddenly go out and change fits? Like, presumably the fit she's wearing in the modern day is something she had to make herself. It's not like Samuki was wearing it. So what happened? What changed, Yorozu? Something about clothes just made you be like, oh, you know, I didn't like him before, but I like him now. I don't know. But, you know, Yorozu is a character who... she's getting her own video. And not for the reasons like I'd make a video on Gojo, or Yuta, or Hikari, or Kashimo, or Ishii. I'm about to say, I try to fuse Itadori and Ishigori. Like, not for a reason I'd make a character analysis on those characters. The opinions aren't all positive. But, however, we do get to see that with this being the case, Yorozu being requested to put on clothes, she's not necessarily too into that, but she believes, oh, if it's a festival, they may have deep-fried karakudamono. I haven't had those in a hot minute. Wait a second. Let me throw on this cloak real quick. And to be fair, as a person who also likes to eat, I do understand going to a place specifically because you know that place has the one food you like. Like, legitimately, I love going to certain like state or county fairs specifically because I know they have the goods. It depends on which like state I'm in or which county fair I'm going to. Some places have the goods, some places don't have the goods. It's not universal, so I understand. However, while I understand that not all treats are universal at specific places, Yorozu doesn't, and we see that the poor servant runs along and is like, the harvest ritual is not that kind of event. I feel so bad for her. I bet she probably did, like, I mean, maybe not, by the results of what happens before the end of this chapter. Maybe she just got a new master to serve. Hopefully one that was better. However, with that being the case, we do get to see Yorozu walks up, and she sees the king of curses in all of his girth. And I ain't gonna lie, Sukuna kind of like, I'm not a fan, realistically. Like, but I am low key wondering what that mount do. Nah, sorry, but no, I actually do really like this version of Sukuna. Notably, I didn't necessarily like it too much in the flashback that Oro had at the end of the Sendai fight. For some reason, the way he was drawn there didn't really do it for me. The when we first saw Form Sukuna didn't really do it for me. That colored page that's always used for Form Sukuna didn't really do it for me. But something about the cloak just adds a nice extra dimension to it. I really, really like this design. It's really growing on me the more and more I see it. And I'm hoping now at this point, now that Megumi's soul is just sunk. Oh, well, yeah. That happens. But since Megumi's soul is just sunk nice and deep now, I really hope, I 100% hope that he does switch back to this form. Maybe with black hair to give some signifier that Megumi's still in there, but him shifting back to this form for the next couple battles would be neat. And it'd be cool to see him like use multiple techniques. Like, imagine he starts using the lower arms for like his shrine technique, and he uses the upper arms for the 10 shadows technique, and then uses another arm just to punch you in the mouth. Legitimately, I think this form could be really interesting for future combatants. Though admittedly, like, once again, after one shot in Ryu, like, what combatants is he really gonna have? But with that being the case, we do get to see that Sukuna is in fact posted up with Uraume. They are kind of just chilling. Notably, they are on a higher platform than everyone else there. You see people, seemingly two priests, on a lower platform compared to him, which does imply that this is sort of like a prayer area. He's posted up. He's the deity that they're praying to for a good harvest. And once again, it's just very interesting to see Sukuna in a position like this. Like, once again, you gotta remember what this guy said the moment he spawned in. Oh, yes, women and children, so savory, so juicy, oh, I can't wait to have a bite. Like, legitimately, bro was on a different kind of level. So the fact that he's just standing around, posted, well, not standing around, sitting around, posted up, just being a false deity is really, really interesting. And someone I do want to see in the Heian era specifically is Angel. I wonder what their original vessel looked like. Or vessel may be the wrong word. I wonder what they looked like, especially considering we're talking about like prayer, to certain beings and certain deities. I wonder if Angel had any sort of position of power in the past, because Sukuna does recognize them. They straight up say human through and through. That's always been your biggest thing. Like, that's something that was acknowledged fundamentally by Sukuna, so he does know of them. I really wonder if we'll ever get a flashback, if Angel's even still alive. Like, we don't know. They did get thrown off a building after getting their arm chopped off, so like they could just be done. But with that being the case, another interesting thing to note is Uruume's appearance. I'm not sure if we've seen her in the Heian, she or he. I'm not sure what Uruume is. I'm not sure if we've seen them in the Heian era before, but notably they look exactly the same, except the only difference is that they don't have the red splotches in their hair yet. So I wonder if they're also sort of like a curse-esque being where they're just fundamentally immortal, or if they had a thing going with Kenny where Kenny would like revive them every single generation and they would just keep swapping the faces over. Because hypothetically, Kenny's technique innately allows him to do that through his brain, but Uruume may just be like forcefully transferred by Kenny generation after generation after generation, or have just been revived recently. It was interesting to see them here. I wonder what caused the hair change though. May just be nothing important, may just be a design choice. However, we do get to see that Yorozu is enraptured by the sheer sight of this girthy, bulky boy known as Sukuna. And we see that she's wondering, what on earth are they all doing? Why can't they understand? And she immediately lunges up and hugs the boy. And, I don't, like, I'm trying to think of, like, an apt comparison. If you saw Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson just chilling up there with Kevin Hart. Interesting comparison to make Uruume Kevin Hart. But like, say you saw Dave "The Rock" Johnson up on stage with Kevin Hart, and they're just chilling and chatting like right before a major presentation at like a Comic-Con or something like that. What would possess you? Like, what would possess you to lunge up and full body tackle that man? Like, and to be fair, Yorozu doesn't like really tackle them. She does just gently embrace him. But still, like, what possesses you? What kind of logic is there, if any logic at all, that you run up and tackle Dave "The Rock" Johnson? Now, admittedly, this is a hard comparison to make, because we are not sorcerers, as far as I know. Unless y'all are sorcerers down below, let me know. Teach me so. Y'all can imagine. Are y'all any sorcerers down there? Is Gojo Satoru in my comment section right here, right now? If so, teach me the limitless. Give me your 6 eyes. Give them to me. But regardless, we aren't sorcerers. So the comparison of Dave "The Rock" Johnson and Sukuna is very hard to say. But Sukuna, even presumably, let's say he is suppressing himself, he's got to release a malicious aura. Like an aura just constantly. Once again, Ura was dookie-ing herself at the mere presence of Sukuna entering the colony. So you're telling me Yorozu has no survival instinct? Like, none at all? Like, what does this feel like? And we gotta remember, this isn't 15-finger Sukuna in the body of a 15-year-old. This is prime, thick, juicy, girthy, full 20-finger, prime of his life Sukuna. Do you see all the beef on that boy? This man is massive. And you're telling me the first thing that occurs when you run into this literal deity is to tackle him, wrap your arms around him, and bury your finger in his hair? Like, what? What? You are got to be kidding. Like, what kind of lack of common sense? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think. Is there any... There's not a single, like, celebrity on the planet that would, like, get me to freak out like this. Like, no matter what. If the situation, I don't think so. It's just not within my repertoire. Shouts to Yorozu for the absolute insanity of literally bear hugging the king of curses. I don't know, because that's gotta, like, imagine you just felt someone who had the presence of a literal tornado, and your first instinct was to hug them. Beyond me. However, we do get to see that with this being the case, Yorozu is all up on Sukuna. She's like, it'll be all right. I'm here. You are not alone. And do you not see their, like, homeboy, homegirl, homie? Like, do you not see their homie posted up right next to him? Like, he's obviously not alone either. He's just chilling. He's just vibing. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like they were talking though. I mean, like, so I can't tell if Sukuna's mouth is necessarily open here, if he's just sitting there bored. But they are just chilling. They're having a good old time before you showed up, Yorozu, and we see that Uruume is not happy that Yorozu decided to come in and try to interrupt their good old time, because she immediately attacks with ice. And notably, we see that the attack misses. Yorozu does manage to dodge, proving she is pretty decent, but we see Uruume is pretty insulted. they're even like, yo, straight up, stand back. You're like, what you trying to cook right now? Because it ain't nothing good. I can smell it from here. In fact, you probably haven't bathed in 15 years. Get your dumb bubblegum built like an ugly Sukuna fangirl looking at it. Aizu built like a kaiju looking, like, get out of here. And you can literally see just the insult on Ume's face. I love it. And we do get to see that Yorozu's like, huh, wow, how about you take your own advice and you step down away from my man? And like, I mean, curses can have kids with humans, so it's not impossible. Like, the death paintings are all just cursed kids. Choso is just that, so it's not entirely unreasonable, so it could work out. So Yorozu could take Sukuna's mighty cursed meat. And we do get to see that Yorozu, once again, is forcing me to censor her, as she says, from now on, I'll be the one standing by his side, and I'll be the one to soothe his lonesome heart. But, as we do get to see, without even doing anything necessarily, he's, once again, had not even shifted. His hand was still over his knee, and his other hand was still on the ground. Yorozu has already been sliced. She's been slashed apart, and I suppose the euphoria of getting her juicy, delicious, unwashed fingers all over the Kim curses suppressed her, like, mania long enough that she didn't realize it until the effects of the attack actually kick in, and she realized that, oop, she's done. And that's how she gone. That's how she gone. That's how she perished. 1,000 years ago. That is how she lost. She didn't know Sukuna. She had never interacted with the man. On her first interaction with him, she got One Pieced. No Oda. Like, legitimately, what the heck? Like, I'll talk a little bit about it here. Yorozu as a character has just been kind of embarrassing. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I get just massive, and I mean massive, second-hand embarrassment vibes from Yorozu. Like, notably, I can say I'm lucky enough to never have a friend that has caused me this level of second-hand embarrassment. There are friends. I know I've caused my own friends many levels of second-hand embarrassment. The amount of random, extended, multi-hour Kingdom Hearts rants I've gone on in public must have sent them to third-person embarrassment. I bet people just walking by who didn't know me from a can of paint felt embarrassed as I explained the deep ramifications and complexities of young Xehanort's character. But with that being the case, golly, man, like what on your first interaction with Brody, and that's the thing, you believe that you can do anything against this man? Like, he legit one-shot you without moving. And you thought you were something? I don't know. What kind of delusion? What kind of insanity must you be under that you thought you were someone? Like, what? And we do get to see, in the modern day, Yorozu says, I want it all to myself. Your solitude is mine and mine alone. Hey, Yorozu, fun fact. If you are with a person, they are no longer in solitude. But with that being the case, we do get to see that Yorozu's love that she was trying to create at the end of last chapter finally reveals itself as she declares, the one who will slay you is me. And once again, it hasn't been said. Gege has not come out and confirmed anything. She has never been called Yorozu Zenin. But considering using her technique in this way is causing the same effect that we saw with Mai, where she started, bleeding out the nose, getting a solid nosebleed. This could just be her being, down a chosen for Sukuna, but I do believe it's just an after effect of the creation technique, and the creation technique is a Zenin clan inherited technique, and we do see that in the past she does have black hair, so presumably, this is just 100% confirming that she is in fact a Zenin clan member, or at least one of their ancestors. I'm not exactly sure why Gege is not calling her Yorozu Zenin at least once, but maybe he just wants the implications to be underground, a little bit extra weird, not ultra super duper weird. However, we do get to see that she creates this orb. She creates a ball, and Sukuna even recognizes this big old orb of pure liquid darkness, and he says, that's perfect spear. And I love how Sukuna is, once again, just completely indifferent. He doesn't actually necessarily care. He's not shocked or concerned or anything. But the perfect spear does proceed to move. Or at least seemingly, the ground that it carves out is in fact carved out as it seems to roll along, like a big old heavy ball. And we do get to see that Yorozu claims it is said that it is impossible to create a perfectly true spear. Such objects have an infinitely small point of contact, therefore generating infinite pressure along its surface. A perfect spear that is impossible to grasp. I wonder if you can handle this. True, unfiltered love. Domain expansion. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So, she created... Gege just loves throwing the words at us. Another character that's just creating impossibilities with like infinite mass across certain areas, infinitely small point of contact, infinite pressure. Like, first, we obviously had Gojo with his limitless technique that was out here, you know, working on the atomic level, breaking and attacking concepts, bringing impossible paradoxes into reality. Then the most recent example before this was, actually, the most recent example is Yuki with her black hole using infinite mass and just shoving it into Kenjaku to turn him into a black hole. And then on top of that, you had Kenjaku with his own cursed spirits that could manipulate concepts. And now we have this. Infinite pressure and infinite mass. I'm not exactly sure how this would scale. Like, I don't think this has black hole properties. It's not sucking anything. It doesn't give the Omega Zuck to anything. But infinite pressure along its surface, that does sound pretty powerful. But we do get to see that she doesn't think that's enough and rather uses her domain expansion on top of that, 3 layers of affliction. And seemingly enough, she has a whole bunch of I'm not sure I can say it, but remember what Naoya's domain was called in the official translation. She has a whole bunch of those just floating around. Floating around within her domain. However, once again, we still see that Sukuna, who's actually looking kind of beefy in Megumi's body there. I'm not sure if Gege was just used to drawing Sukuna buff. He does look a little bit beefy there. He still does have Mahoraga's treasure whirling around above his head. And Yorozu is confused because she's looking on Sukuna and is wondering why he's not necessarily expanding his domain. Like, he's kind of just chilling there in her own domain with nothing special or nothing extra going on. However, she does not seem to know of the 10 Shadows technique, as while they're in this domain, Sukuna, I'm not sure if it's manually or just it's doing it on its own, the treasure on top of his head clunks. It shifts, meaning that it did the adaptation. And with that being the case, something is a little bit rough for Yorozu, but she just don't know it yet. And she's contemplating the issue here. She's like, you saw it, didn't you? It's impossible to grasp a perfect spear. In this domain, that perfect spear is almost guaranteed to hit you. Do you understand? If I initiate my technique, you'll vanish. But, Yorozu, let me take you back in time. Back to reality of 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pages back. You said, and I quote, the one who will slay you is me. So don't you want him to vanish? Like, Yorozu, you're making no sense, though. You're making no sense. Like, out of the 2 people who we've seen that are obsessed with fighting Sukuna, I like Kashimo way more. I'm sorry, Yorozu, you just ain't cooking like I thought you'd be cooking. Like, come on now. This is kind of wild. However, we do get to see that with Yorozu so concerned, oh no, I'm going to make Sukuna, the king of curses, disappear if I activate my technique. One thing I never necessarily got is, like, the point of domain expansions, at least as far as I can tell, is to instantly OHKO your opponent. And if not instantly OHKO them, barrage them with can't miss attacks. Why do domains come with the ability to not automatically do that? Like Jogo, at the beginning of the series, when we saw his domain, it's confirmed by Gege in a fan book that the rock that Gojo deflected was not sure hit. It was Gojo just being tested by Jogo, while Jogo throwing a rock at him. Why did you not immediately activate your sure hit technique, Jogo? Why not? Yorozu, why is your domain, that presumably is something deadly, not immediately activated sure hit technique? Like, what's the point of just standing around in a domain? Like, heck, non-lethal domains like Higuruma's and Hikari's act more instantaneously with more sure hit of an effect than actual lethal ones. Like, I get the plot reason why. Like, obviously you can't have Gojo, you know, getting hit by sure hit effects, and you can't have characters like Sukuna getting hit by sure hit effects. But in narrative, what's the point of your domain not immediately activating with this technique? Not a clue. I don't know. It just seems so stupid from an in-character and narrative perspective. However, we do get to see that finally, Sukuna grabs the treasure off his head. And he says, with this treasure, I summon. And beautifully, in this amazing panel where we get to see a circular spin, Sukuna falls back as Mahoraga rises up. My boy, he's here. My boy is here. Yes. Though, I guess this does just confirm what y'all were saying last review. I guess Sukuna did just one-shot all these things off screen. because there's no fancy ritual for Mahoraga appearing. Obviously, Sukuna's had the Mahoraga thing over his head for a while. He just showed up with the tranquil deer and the piercing bull without any special ritual. I guess just in the fish, as they were flying over to the Sendai colony, Sukuna just summoned them all and shot them all. Like, I guess. That's crazy to think about, though. I wish we could have seen it. Like, even if it was just like one page or like part of a page for each, it would have been cool to see him taming the Shikigami. But yeah, now Mahoraga is fully under his control, because notably when he summons it, he drops this treasure into the shadow without making any particular hand signs. And when he does, Mahoraga spawns outside of the domain's barrier and then uses, supposedly, I believe that, not the Sword of Liberation, whatever the sword is called, that's infused with RCT, and straight up stabs the barrier. And it's interesting that, I'm not sure, I guess the barrier itself is kind of the domain, because when Mahoraga stabs it, Yorozu is shocked to find, and she even says, "Unbelievable, to think it destroyed a perfect spear." And presumably this comes from Sukuna's adaptation of it. So I'm assuming Sukuna's not totally broken, he's just broken enough. So Sukuna can wield Mahoraga's treasure, the rock, paper, scissors treasure, the eightfold wheel, I do believe, to adapt to phenomena for Mahoraga. So when he summons Mahoraga, it already comes pre-adapted. Thusly, that's why he could interact with the perfect spear, because Sukuna had interacted with it. It adapted, and then Sukuna summoned Mahoraga, who got all the free adaptations. However, something that still is yet to be confirmed is whether or not Mahoraga keeps its adaptations from its previous summonings. I don't think so, though. I feel like it may just reset every single time. And now it's immune to stuff like this. Though admittedly, considering what it does to Yorozu immediately after this, like, it just straight up reels back and swings on her, yeah, it's highly unlikely that it's going to need those adaptations anytime soon. And we see, as everything crumbles, Sukuna walks up and is like, well. Techniques like yours with poor cursed energy efficiency always tend to end up as one-trick ponies. When push comes to shove, you'll always fall back on what you're used to. It'll either be the liquid metal or your insect armor. I've already adapted to them. So that's the only thing that confuses me, though. He says, I've already adapted to them, which implies that Sukuna gets the immunity perks or the adaptability perks of the eightfold wheel like Mahoraga does. But I don't exactly know. Like, it just seems a little bit up in the air. If he does adapt to phenomena, as long as he has the Mahoraga wheel over his head, he's unbeatable. Like, unless he gets hit by Hollow Purple. That's the only thing I could hypothetically see immediately taking Sukuna out. Or if he gets hit by maybe Infinite Void. The reason I think you need Hollow Purple and not Infinite Void is because Infinite Void destroys the brain, but it's still there. Like, Gojo doesn't immediately atomize you with Infinite Void like he atomizes you upon hitting you with Hollow Purple. So hypothetically, if Sukuna gets caught within Gojo's domain, even if his brain is breaking from the overload of information, if he has the wheel above his head, the wheel will just turn, Sukuna's brain will adapt to the infinite information, and then he can fight Gojo just fine. So I hope he's not getting the adaptation perks. I really hope it's just Mahoraga and he's sort of just tanking the damage for Mahoraga so he comes out pre-adapted. But I don't know, he could be even more broken than he already is. And we do get to see that Yorozu's like, wow, didn't realize you knew me so well. Makes me happy. Like, I don't know. Like, I'll admit, I'm a fanboy to certain things. Like, if I were to suddenly learn Japanese and then meet with Tetsuya Nomura, I think I would legitimately fanboy out. Like, I would just straight fanboy and chum me through the moon. Like, I would just be going absolutely bonkers with my praise. The slop would be insane. Like, I love Tetsuya Nomura for what he's done, even if I do not like Tetsuya Nomura for many things he's done. But I don't think I'd slop him off like this. After Tetsuya Nomura summoned a Keyblade himself, proceeded to drop the Keyblade into the shadow, and had Darkseid himself come up and body bag me, I don't think I'm happy for the fact that Tetsuya Nomura knew I was a fan. I don't think that is going to bring me any sort of joy. And we see that Yorozu gets no positive reaction out of Sukuna. He goes flat-faced again. It's like, what is wrong with this woman? And we do get to see that in the end, she still loves him. And it's like, here, take this. Think of it as me and always cherish it. I'm not exactly sure what she gives him here. I can't see within the panel, but it may come up later. And we do get to see the main point. Megumi Fushiguro is crying tears of pain in the darkness of his own soul as after taking his sister Samuki's life, Fujiwara's soul sinks into the abyss. So Megumi is sunk. He is gone. But not actually. Notably, we still see that he does still exist. If Gege wanted to confirm this as the end of Megumi, he wouldn't show us him crying and laying down and light raining down from on top of him. He's very, very sunk. I bet Sukuna does have like 99.9999999999999999999.487% control, but I do 100% believe that Megumi can still be saved. I still think so, because we don't see his soul get absolutely annihilated here. It's just sunk further into darkness and he's crying tears. But I still think Megumi is there. He may come back broken or something like that, but I still think he can be saved. But overall, super duper, juper, ooper, gooper W chapter. Obviously, I do appreciate the flashback to the Heian era, getting more context for what Sukuna was like back in the day, how people viewed him, seeing Urume and Sukuna. I love their past designs. I really think they're neat. And while Yorozu is like the least interesting part of this entire chapter, as she's kind of been for the last couple chapters, still seeing her techniques, seeing her get beat by Mahoraga, seeing Mahoraga in general, all that's heat. And obviously the confirmation that Megumi's soul is seemingly enough done, son. Super duper excited to see where that goes. I'm excited for the next chapter. I don't think we're going to be sticking with Sukuna anymore. I think we may cut away either back to Itadori and Maki, maybe to Hikari and Kashimo. No one showed up to help Yorozu in time like I thought was going to happen, so we may just be done. I think we're gonna see a major shift in narrative from this point on, and I'm excited to see what that is. However, that's what I think. Please let you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It makes it a little bit case to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, a page down below is what result as one Kadamon Dama. This videos, early content, and more. It will now become a Maryland channel for as well as 3 days a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Nago the Pencil, writing off.